BEST, which stands for Brain Education Strategies and Technologies, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping brain injured people with their problems. In this presentation, Michelle Wild, who is the founder and CEO of BEST, presents all about BEST in terms of what kind of help they provide and how this group came to be. And we get into a lot of details of the nature of both brain injury problems and what they have done to help in various ways. Michelle offers a great presentation um, and shares what she has developed as an educator and as a person working for decades to help brain injured people. In addition to the great presentation, this recording has a discussion both at the beginning and then after the presentation that really captures the various natures and problems of different people's brain injuries. I decided it's important to keep the discussion in the recording in a way to show how mysterious brain injury problems can be, how hard it is to find, a way to make sense of what has become injured inside of your own self, and also the right, how, let alone how hard it is to find the help and support and the understanding and the professionals that you need, to improve. So that's why I kept the discussion in this recording and throughout. So Michelle's presentation is excellent, and it starts about 14 minutes into the recording. And then after her presentation, there's question and answer and discussion, and then there's more discussion that follows. I also wanted to thank all the brain injured people who participate, who share what they're dealing with, because otherwise, I don't know how else to offer a glimpse of what we're dealing with to other people.
Hey, Daniel, how are you?
Hi, I'm okay. How are you?
Good.
Yeah,
I'm good.
Randy. That's Randy Miller.
Oh,
Randy is my friend.
oh,
He's actually the first person that I met in a support group that I actually started talking about brain injury stuff with.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Hi, Randy.
Hi. So Michelle, what exactly do you do? I'm not
She's
entirely
gonna talk
clear.
about it, Randy. Well, I guess you can
Oh,
answer the question, but she's also gonna talk about it.
So, my background is in education, Randy. So, I'm
mm,
a
a teacher.
professor at a community college in California. And I have been working there for, oh gosh, 39 years or so now. And so my whole career has been working with adults with various types of acquired brain injuries and teaching them compensatory skills and stuff like that. And then, so I've been doing that for a long time. And then I started a nonprofit, Brain Education Strategies and Technology, about 8 years ago or so. And the whole reason I started BEST was because there were just such limited resources. What I was doing at Coastline wasn't available in other places. And through Coastline, it wasn't available, if you didn't live locally. So I started BEST to try and start offering webinars and workshops to help individuals living with brain injury get some knowledge and get some different form of cognitive rehabilitation for them that's free of charge.
Hmm. How did you get started with all? I mean, what got you into this to begin with?
Well, I have a degree in psychology, and so I actually started working at Coastline about 39 years ago as an intern, and then I just never left. I was an
I mean,
undergraduate,
what got you into dealing with brain injuries to begin with?
an internship in my senior year of college. I was interested in the brain, and I got an internship and worked at the college as an intern for 6 months, and then I started working there. So I liked it.
So what did I mean, I don't quite get what did the internship had something to do with working with people that had brain TBI?
Yep.
Oh,
Coastline has a program for people with TBI. So we work on organization and time management and decision making and
hmm.
auditory and visual processing and all sorts of different issues that often people with brain injuries deal with.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that brings back a lot of memories.
Yeah. How long ago was your injury, Randy?
It was 27 years ago. I
Mm.
got attacked by a dog that had been abused with electrical shock from a defective underground fence collar.
Ooh.
the no, there wasn't much back then at all. And matter of fact, when I think back on it, as best as I can recall, the explosion in what was now what was becoming the new knowledge of the neurosciences was just in its infancy
Yeah.
around the time that I got injured.
Yep. That's exactly
Um,
right.
yeah, and you know, and
But
then
but
we were
that hasn't led to a good understanding of brain injury. There are some. It's kind of like there's some good places, but there's still a lot of misunderstanding.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
there's no question. I mean, it's more than what it was 30 years ago, but
Yeah,
you're
and
right.
there are good places. There's like these oases of good places, and but
The
a lot of it's still how it was, you know.
yeah,
So, did you ever get a chance to listen to the podcast? And any,
Yeah. I
yeah,
listened to, yep. I listened to one. I watched it was a webinar or something that you did with Lynn Turkstra.
yeah, the
Yeah.
executive function one.
Yeah. An
Yeah.
executive function. So, yeah.
I have a lot of those. So with the podcast, you know, as you probably know, each brain injured person is very different, and the
Right.
problems are different. But I am so far finding that anyone that speaks to me, either they're pretty clear to very clear about what they're dealing with, to they're in the stages of figuring it out. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not um mysterious to them, it's not invisible to them. And I see
Right.
that as the angle to get into first, just discussion, help them figure it out and communicate with the people around them, and
Mm-hmm.
also hopefully use that as a way to get into the stuff that they need for specific
Mm-hmm.
help. And that's kind of I see where the stuff you do comes in. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have executive function issues. I didn't have goal setting issues, but I had other issues. And I haven't viewed all of your stuff, but I've viewed enough, and I think the most important thing is my friend Philip, who we couldn't find anything to help him. He found you, and he was speaking so highly of it. So I was like, okay, this is, it.
Oh,
Yeah. So
nice.
all it takes is one example in that sense.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Hey, Debbie.
yeah.
I will be right back, you guys. I need to just go check on something before we jump on. So I'll be right back.
Hi.
So Randy and and Debbie, you two are the two people that I've had the most discussions with alexithymia problems. And Debbie, the tap thing, I think
Mhm.
each piece of it, I can think of like the years of stuff I've put together to deal with it. So it's sort of like a similar roadmap, but I didn't have that perspective. Oh,
Yeah. I have not come across, since the time I met Dawn Newman, who introduced me to alexithymia, I haven't come across anybody in healthcare or outside of healthcare who ever heard of it.
yeah, same here. There's multiple problems, but two are that they can't imagine such an emotional lack of capacity. But the stuff that Michelle is going to present today, I think that if you think of all these brain functions and systems in us as they can break and not work, why not emotions? And the other thing is that the world of PTSD and trauma has sort of set a huge it trumps anything that we describe. So any therapist I go to, they're like, "Oh, you're talking about PTSD." Like, nah, it's not PTSD. And um, Don Newman helped me find someone, and then I found another person after 12 therapists that at least believe me. So yeah, Michelle, we all have alexithymia with brain injury, the lack of emotions, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'll just jump in straight into that with, we got 4 minutes. Oh, I
Dan,
think
let me ask you something. Does alexithymia encompass the dysregulation of emotions as well, or is that something separate and distinct?
I don't know. I
Either one of you have an opinion about that?
I, I don't know that it has to do, I mean, you know, regulating emotions could be, I would see it as different because I think regulating your emotions means that you are recognizing them, you're aware of them, you're experiencing them, and in a lot of cases, they're getting the best of you, if you will.
yeah.
Whereas what you're describing is sort of just a lack of emotion. Like you don't experience that. And so and it's also very different from like a flat affect, right? A lot of times people after a brain injury have what they call a flat affect, where, you know,
What's the distinction between the flat affect and alexithymia then?
well, I'm not a medical doctor, so from my perspective, the
Well, don't
flat
worry,
affect.
neither are any of us.
Well, I think the flat affect, like Debbie's laughing, she's smiling. A person with flat affect would hear something and really not have any reaction to it, no visual reaction to it. And so a person can be very sad or can be very happy, and you can't really tell the difference because they're very flat in the way in which they present themselves. And so that's the difference that I see.
Yeah, and Randy, I have right here my emotional regulation workbook. This is the therapist that Don Newman connected me with, but I very quickly got him to understand that I'm not
Dan,
dealing
send
with.
me that therapist name. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, I'll send it to you. And I was
Yeah.
telling him very quickly that what I'm dealing with is not what he has in his book, and it's sort of like between the lines. And I've had enough discussions with him, and it's basically they believe me, him and the other therapist who she was at the other therapist was at the Mayo Clinic for 12 years and saw how bad brain injuries dealt with. So they'll like accept my interpretation, but they say that to me, like, you look happy, you smile. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't feel it.
We know how to act.
Yeah, and,
Right.
and the and the
The
other thing is
appropriate
that
things to
yeah,
do.
um tomorrow I'm 25 years from my brain injury. So the first
Wow.
7 years was not like this. The changes happened
Yeah,
in
right,
teen
right.
years of brain injury, and then the emotions, but like, and Debbie and I have been relating a lot about, and Debbie also has worked with Don Newman. So yeah, she's kind of the only one that is unbrain injured that talks about it. Maybe in the future, Michelle, we can convince you to build a program for that within your system.
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely be something to incorporate, because I think that there are lots of individuals living with that, and just like you, I haven't found anyone that can really acknowledge it, or, you know, that's really one of the
This
biggest
is this
challenges that
is
a lot of people have,
this is
is finding
interesting.
people that acknowledge and can recognize, you know, some of what you guys are going through. So,
The other,
You know,
yeah,
I want to say something. This is kind of interesting. I just met with a fellow yesterday who I was referred to by Sifu from the martial arts studio. And he's an acupuncturist and used to do a lot of other body work in sports medicine. He's 75 years old. He's 2 years older than me. And he asked me about what I did for joy. And I told him that I don't know that I recall ever feeling anything like that in the last 27 years. Um, so it's been about 2.5 years. I've got a service dog underneath my desk here. He's a 3.5-year-old golden retriever. You cannot train the golden retriever out of a golden retriever. That ain't going to happen. This guy has, and I didn't get him with the service dog in mind, but he has broken through the social, I'm not sure what to call it, impediments that I had, largely because he attracts so much attention.
mm,
Um, but getting back to, um, so I think the only sense of joy that I really ever experience is probably with this dog, and sometimes I even wonder about that. The other part of it is that for as long as I can remember since this injury happened, or sometime shortly thereafter, to me it feels like my heart is just dead inside.
mm,
And and yesterday, when I was with the acupuncturist and he's pressing on different points along my arm, on the left side of my body, it was painful. The right side was not. And he talked about my liver being, however he put it, jammed up. And that was tied to my heart. And I mean, in the context of alternative medicine, if you will, it sort of gave a good rationale as to why I had this heart attack a year and a half ago.
Randy, I'm gonna stop you because we're beginning our seminar, but
Okay.
I can tell you that I was imagining a panel with you, me, Debbie, and I was picturing one other person that doesn't have alexithymia to be a mediator to discuss these kinds of things. Because I also had the pain in me exposed to me through acupuncture after like 20 years of not feeling that. And now I'm working on positive feelings, which is really weird.
Hmm.
Okay, so we're gonna stop this discussion because it's 1 o'clock. Yeah, Randy. So I just want to say thanks for sharing that, but it's also time to
Okay.
begin the thing.
I live in California, and I have been working with adults living with brain injury I've been working with that population for almost 40 years. I started working at Coastline College, which is in Southern California in Newport Beach. I started working there 39 years ago, and it was the first community college-based program in the United States. So the difference between what I do and what the medical model is that I approach cognitive rehabilitation and brain injury from an educational perspective versus a medical perspective. So I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a speech and language pathologist. I'm not an occupational therapist. I have a degree in psychology, and that's what I have used for my entire career. I don't have a PhD. I have a master's degree in psychology, but I've been a teacher, a professor my entire career. And so I look at brain injury and I look at teaching strategies and teaching compensatory techniques differently than a lot of other people do. Doesn't mean I'm right. It just means I have a slightly different perspective because I'm coming from this educational environment.
Does that make it significantly different than an OT perspective?
I do think it's different. I think there's a lot of overlap, but I do think it is different in how we approach things.
Okay.
So OTs are really working on, very functional skills, how to help people learn how to cook again and different things like that.
Yeah.
I'm really focused on the cognitive skills. So my emphasis in what I do is
Okay.
dealing with struggles that you might have in organization or in time management or in decision making or in things
Executive
like,
function,
I'm sorry.
executive function, and goal.
Yeah, a lot of the
As
executive
a, as
functioning
opposed to
stuff,
task oriented.
self-regulation, just a lot of broad-based things. The things that the skills that tend to you really struggle with, and they sort of stick with you. Those struggles often stick with people after the brain injury for a long time. And so that's Coastline's program was created about 45 years ago, and I've been in the program now for about 39 years. So my entire career has been in working with individuals like you that are living with brain injury. Someone said earlier, you're 25. I think, Dan, you said you're 25 years post.
Yeah.
Someone else said 30 years post. You know, I've been doing this for that many years and longer, and it's really interesting how much has changed in our field and in the area of brain injury since back in those days. So I work at Coastline College as a teacher. The Coastline program is now a virtual program, so people from anywhere in the United States or in the world could register if they wanted. It is an academic program, so it's like a regular college class, but what we focus on is very different from like a history or art class or an English class. Okay. So that's what I do at Coastline. About 8 years ago, I started what's called BEST, Brain Education Strategies and Technology, and it's a nonprofit. It's located here in California. And BEST was sort of something that I wanted to do because at that point in time, the ABI program at Coastline was really a local program. It was only for individuals who lived in Orange County, California. And that doesn't really, that's not really going to help everybody. And so I wanted to make sure that what I was doing for many years that I think really helps people was available to others. And so that's one of the reasons why I started BEST. I actually started it because I had created some apps that were designed specifically for individuals living with brain injury that help with all the executive functioning challenges that you experience. And so BEST originally started as sort of a way of getting the word out about the apps. And when COVID happened, and a little bit before COVID actually, as we were trying to teach people how to use apps and how to use technology in general, like how many of you guys have an iPhone or an Android phone, right? Okay. And so those devices, your Android and your Apple phones, are like a little mini cognitive rehabilitation right in your hand. And a lot of people don't see it that way. A lot of people just see their phones as a way of communicating with people or checking information on the internet or something like that. And from my perspective, the phone is a great cognitive rehab tool because it works on decision making and problem solving and attention to detail and a lot of those skills that people struggle with. And it also gives you pretty immediate feedback, right? Debbie, if you are on your phone and you've set an alarm and it goes off at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know right away that you set the alarm for the wrong time and you learn from those experiences. And so I have written some books on using Apple technology and Android technology as a cognitive prosthetic. And so that's what I was doing. But what we realized was that there were so many people across the country that weren't exposed to cognitive rehab on an ongoing basis. In the program that I teach in at Coastline, I get to work with my students for 4 hours a day, 4 days a week for 2 years at that point in time. That's a lot of cognitive rehabilitation. And it was the cost of a community college class. So a person can get all of that cognitive rehab, and it costs them, back in those days, it was costing about $200, believe it or not. Now it costs about $500, $600 a year. But think about that compared to what you have to pay out of pocket once your insurance is no longer available to you. So Coastline really fills a need for individuals. The BEST program, the nonprofit that I started, what I wanted to do with that was make a lot of that same knowledge, my knowledge that I've gained over the years of working with individuals, available on a broader scale, available to people from anywhere that was interested. And this is one of the things that I'm going to jump to my slides for just a minute here, because I think that this is relevant to what we're talking about now. So there's a service gap for brain injury, and there are lots of different reasons for the service gap. Okay. And when I'm talking about service gap, I'm talking about cognitive rehabilitation, like that process of sort of learning the skills that you're struggling with, and then learning strategies to compensate for those skills. Okay. So there are several different, possible reasons for that service gap in cognitive rehab. One is that the brain injury just wasn't diagnosed. Is there anyone here where you had a brain injury, maybe it was a car accident or something, and the brain injury just wasn't diagnosed right away? But
Well, I was accused of malingering quite a bit.
Yep, malingering is
And
something
I
that
told
often,
everybody that anybody that have term that brought that up, I basically told them, understand something. I'm from Philadelphia, so I'm going to put this in that vernacular. I basically told them they were full of shit and they didn't know what they were talking about.
well,
So
there are people that have brain injuries that may not even realize they have a brain injury. right? You
That's a
have a little car
yep,
accident or you have a car accident
yep.
and you think, okay, it's not a big deal. And then later on, you realize that there was a concussion involved. But a lot of people don't get diagnosed. And especially, years ago, they weren't being diagnosed in the same way. Brain injury is diagnosed in some cases, but dismissed as not needing cog rehab. For instance, oh, well, just go home and rest and things will get better, right? Holly, you're
Yeah.
shaking your head, so I'm assuming you've kind of heard that.
I'll say the
In,
audience
I
here is, yeah, very aware of all of these because we've
yeah,
Mhm.
been with it, yeah.
I wasn't even sent to the hospital. I had a car hit me, an SUV that hit me that flipped over on its side, and I wasn't even sent to the hospital
Mhm.
and
Right.
Were
told to
you
walk.
a pedestrian or in a car?
I was in a car, and I was
Oh.
told to get a. And looking back, I mean, I knew I was messed up from the beginning because looking back, they told me to get an Uber. I was walking up to 5 or 6 strangers, random cars with strangers in it, thinking that was the Uber. So looking back, I know I was messed up from the beginning. But anyway, go
Mhm.
ahead. Sorry.
No, that's fine. How many of you, I'm going to stop sharing for a second. How many of you received some type of cognitive rehabilitation?
Oh, I did. I spent
Okay.
3 or 4 years at the U of O.
So Debbie didn't, right? I can't see everybody else. Olivia didn't. And what kinds of things did you do in your cognitive rehabilitation? Yeah, go ahead, Holly.
It took me about 2 hospital stays in a year to actually get it, but well, a little bit in the hospital, but not really much. Speech therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and um, so a couple months of that, like once every week, I once every couple of weeks, and then I plateaued. I got to get better to another point to continue
Mm-hmm.
because I'm at a plateau right now. So,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And that's one of the problems with the system, in my opinion,
Yeah,
is yeah, you've plateaued because of requirements for insurance or whatever, but that doesn't mean that you should stop, right? That
right,
doesn't mean that you can't continue to improve. And so
right,
that's really what I'm here. Like, that's why I'm here, is because I work with people who often don't have medical insurance, can't afford it, who have been told that they've plateaued and they can't get more services or more sessions until the next year or whatever the case might be. And my belief is that people are continuing to improve slowly but surely. Sometimes you'll see bigger leaps in how you're improving. Sometimes it'll be smaller leaps. But my thing is always looking at the little successes that you're having and seeing those little successes. And
yeah,
unfortunately, the little successes aren't always what other people see, and they're not always those things that might get you to the next level in terms of additional therapies or something, but the little successes are what you see, and that's what hopefully helps motivate you so that you keep moving forward.
absolutely. The little wins.
From when it comes to acute care, this country is probably second to none. When it comes to chronic conditions, this kind of Western clinical medicine, in a nutshell, sucks. The So don't hold, you need to try and the caveat in all of this is that every injury is different. So there's no really one set pat answer.
Randy, I'm gonna stop you there because there's a downward spiral, but this is a huge, and I think Holly knows all this because she's been dealing with the system.
Okay.
She has
I
some
was in the
horror
hospital.
stories.
I was in the hospital. Yeah, I have some horror stories. I was in the
Share,
hospital
share.
for 10 weeks last year. So 2 different hospital stays, 10 weeks. So I've lost a lot of faith in the medical
Yeah.
community. I'm still hopeful, and I know that we're continuing to learn. I know there's a lot of stuff on the scientific level that is not reached down to the clinic level, and it's going to be years, if not decades, for some of that. But I'm hopeful, and I research, and I just keep trying to move forward. And met Dan, who's amazing, and just keep trying to search out other ways to improve my situation. I'm
Yeah.
destitute and ended up in state housing from my accident, which I'm lucky to have now, on the verge of homelessness for the last 12 months. So, I mean, I'm just keeping my head above water and trying to
Right.
stay patient.
We're getting echo here, and also, so everyone here is on the same page that's brain injured. and the clinicians too. So let's let
Yeah.
Michelle keep going. But yeah, thanks guys for saying your personal stuff.
Can I weigh in on a minute, Daniel?
Yeah, hi
And-
Judy.
Hi. So I am a rehabilitation doctor, physical medicine and rehabilitation, and work in the medical mess and see these gaps every single day. And Michelle, to have a low cost program that helps people work, continue to improve over the long haul, continue to improve cognitively and in their day-to-day function. This is huge. This is, I mean, this is
Yeah.
huge. This isn't there. This needs
Yeah.
to get out there. Okay.
Yeah,
So
people don't know enough about it. Is the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
hopefully, I mean, I appreciate that, Judy, and I think we're on the same page, obviously, and that's really what BEST was all about. At Coastline, at the college that I work at, it was more for local individuals, and so someone had to actually move to California, to Orange County, which is not a cheap place to live, in order to be able to access our services. Once COVID hit, the Coastline program went online. And so now you can attend anywhere from the country, but it still costs out-of-state tuition. And we know one of the most important things about brain injury, as Holly has just shared, it can devastate an individual financially. And so that's where BEST comes in. BEST, and I'll get through this, I promise. We'll start with what BEST does in just a second, but I basically just wanted to say that, people fall through the cracks all the time. And
Mhm.
what my goal in BEST is to help you learn to make new cognitive connections, to help you assist in relearning things. In a lot of cases, it's relearning something that you already knew. And this is where the
Mhm.
education component, where I come from, is important, I think, because I may be teaching you something that you already know, but I hopefully will be teaching it in a little bit differently. I will teach it from different angles and different perspectives, because one thing that we know is that after the brain injury, for a lot of people, the way in which you learn changes. It's different after the brain injury. And so to understand that is really important, because you can work with someone who just keeps telling you to do it the same way. Holly, this way is the way to do it. And Holly, that doesn't work for you. So this is why I think the educational model is so important, because we're looking at it from a different perspective. Obviously, developing compensatory strategies is really important.
Right.
And then for me, building confidence in community is really important. So here's what BEST is. We're a nonprofit. We offer free and low-cost webinars and workshops. I'll explain what the difference between those things are. We provide free an online community where survivors can go in and can communicate and share. And that community is something we're still developing. We're very early in that stage. We also offer apps, and I'll tell you a little bit about the apps that we have and how they might be beneficial to you. So let me just jump to what our approach is. So this is what I call the Making Cognitive Connections approach. And the Making Cognitive Connections approach uses an educational model, because basically what we're doing is we're helping individuals identify the things that they do in their everyday life, the cognitive skills that underlie those things, and then we talk about how to apply the strategies. So we're really trying to help you make connections. And that is, I'm not talking about new neural pathways, right? That's more of a medical thing. I'm talking about through using strategies and stuff like that, you can develop new neural pathways, but also you're just making connections, awarenesses that you may not ordinarily make. And sometimes it's very helpful when someone points that connection out to you, so that, you might go, oh, okay, I didn't realize that. And as a result of that, you can begin to really see some changes and some improvements. So let me go through these and talk a little bit about who attends the BEST programs. So we have brain injury survivors, We have people with other cognitive conditions. We have people with MS. We have people that have chemo brain that have joined. We have long COVID, people with long COVID. We have a lot of different types of individuals that are dealing with different cognitive conditions. We also have some family members and some caregivers. I'm really excited about the fact that we're getting more medical and ABI professionals joining us. And so I think that's very cool, because I would love to help professionals understand the educational model a little bit differently.
Can I ask
Go
a
ahead.
question?
Yeah,
Do
go ahead.
you notice not so many family and members and caregivers, or are those people pretty frequent to attend with their loved ones?
We are getting more and more family members as time goes by. We even have some family members that are attending. The individual with the brain injury doesn't want to attend the webinars, but the family member comes because they want to understand.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. I think we have one person in particular, his brother has a brain injury, and the brother without the brain injury comes every single webinar and shares and talks and learns, and then he tries to help his brother in whatever way he can based on what he's learning. So it's a really cool thing. So we currently have individuals that join our webinars from 25 plus states, and we have a lot of people from Canada and the United Kingdom. We've got people from Australia and a variety of other countries as well. So what do we offer? Well, we offer webinars. A webinar is a standalone 1 hour event, just like what we're doing here, okay? They're usually about an hour. We provide handouts. We do a live chat during the webinar. And then one thing that we do is we offer what we call an after hours. So in the webinar, it's a one-way communication. So we're in Zoom right now, so we can see each other. When we do a webinar, basically the audience can see me and can chat with me through the chat, but we don't talk to each other. We don't see each other. But in the after hours, we jump on Zoom and we do exactly what we're doing here, only we're just chit-chatting. We are talking about, I answer questions that they have about the topic. They provide information, struggles that they're having. It's really becoming, I think, quite a powerful community that we're building. All of the webinars that we offer are free. You can register for free. We have them twice a month, the second and the fourth Saturdays of each month. We have a webinar, and that happens almost every other week or second and fourth week of the year. We also provide access to the recordings for a week after the live program. And if a person wants to see past webinars and stuff, they can get access to past webinars for a nominal fee. They also get access to our community groups that are related to whatever the webinar topic is. So here's some of the topics that we do. We have different series. We have a webinar on what is cognitive rehabilitation and why it's important. We have a webinar on self-regulation and how to take back control after brain injury. We have a webinar on the 4 stages of learning. It's not laziness, it's initiation. Initiation is such an important issue after brain injury, and so many people see it as laziness. And so we talk about it. We talk about what initiation is. And in all of these webinars that we give background, we try to help educate people, and we also provide strategies to help. Pace yourself to help manage neurofatigue. And then we also talk about self-efficacy. We have a memory series. We talk about the importance of attention and memory. We talk about taking notes. We talk about using your phones or your devices as a cognitive prosthetic. We also have an executive function series. We talk about organization and time management, decision-making, problem-solving, goal setting, all of the major executive functions. And then we also, this year, we're having a learning series, which is learning styles, why they matter after brain injury. We talk about compensatory strategies, and we talk about mindset, and that concept of mindset matters. So those are all the webinars that we offer during our year. And here are just some of the results if you care. How many best webinars have people attended? 32% have attended more than 10 webinars. So we do get a lot of repeat people coming back. When asked, did you learn something today that you can imagine yourself using in your everyday life? 96% of the people say yes. These numbers come from a total number of participants of 400 and I think 14 maybe. I don't know what it was for this particular, it might have been more like 390 or so. But it's quite a number of individuals that we have been collecting these very simple questions on. This is not scientific research. This is just a survey that people take at the end of the webinars. How likely are you to sign up for another webinar? 98.3% say yes, they are willing or interested in signing up for another webinar. 96% say that they would recommend the best webinars to somebody else. So those are the webinars. Here's just a few comments. Again, these are quotes that people have shared with us. It provides a sense of empowerment from learning how to do things in a better way. Best teaches cognitive rehabilitation strategies, which I haven't been able to find elsewhere. So we also at Best offer workshops. Workshops are a little bit different. Workshops are multi-week curriculums. So typically they're between 5 and 6 or 7 weeks, where each week we meet one time a week, but each week we focus on the same topic. So we did a decision-making workshop, and that workshop we talked about decision-making 6 Fridays in a row, and we built on each one. So it's really more of like an education, like a class that you're taking. They're 90 minutes in length. We have handouts. We provide instructional recordings. We have a website set up where you can go and get all the information. We do small breakout sessions. So it's really more like a class. The registration for our workshops is free. They get free access to the recordings, and they also have an online community. So the workshops that we're offering this year: self-regulation, memory and attention, organization, decision-making. We do what we call a strategic reading group. And we're hoping to get into some vocational workshops as well, like interviewing skills and stuff like that. So when people, when asked, did they learn something in the workshop, 100% of the people said yes, they learned something in the workshop. How useful was the information? Again, about 95% or so of the individuals said the information was very useful. Almost 100%, I guess it is 100%, are saying that they would sign up or likely to sign up for another workshop. And again, about 96 to 97% of people say that they would recommend the workshops. Here's just a couple of comments. I especially like the honest, heartfelt examples of lessons learned and applied by the participants. I learned a lot and was motivated to do more work on planning, monitoring, evaluating, and reflecting on a deeper, ongoing level. So again, these are just some of the comments that people have shared with us. This is our website, just so that you have it. It's bestconnections.org. bestconnections.org. And when you go to the Best Connections website, you'll see some information on the homepage, and you can find registrations for our website, for our webinars, and for our workshops. This is what our website looks like. If you scroll down, you'll see some options to look at the webinars and stuff. You can also come to offerings and check out the offerings. We also have a Best community that we have been developing, and that includes groups and discussion forums and instructional supports for both our webinars and our workshops. It's a safe place. I love this. It's kind of just a quirky little thing, but the individuals that attend our webinars and our workshops and stuff have started calling themselves besties, because a lot of these individuals didn't really have a lot of support before. And now they're not only finding each other, but they're finding support in what we do at Best. And so that is something that I'm very proud of and I'm very happy about. So that's what Best is. Again, a nonprofit. We provide these different offerings free of charge to individuals who are living with a brain injury, for professionals who may just want to look at it from a different perspective, for family members, etc. We also have an app that we have just recently redone. We completely redesigned an app called Strategize My Life. It is available now in the App Store for Apple and for Android. You will see some changes to it. We're still adding some features and stuff, but it's out, and it is designed to help individuals document and be able to find quickly and to be able to rate strategies that you have been provided. So if you've gone through any kind of rehab, your professional is giving you strategies, right? Write something, write an appointment down in your calendar, use emojis, all sorts of strategies you're being given, whether it's an occupational therapist, a speech and language pathologist, neuropsychologist. Everyone is giving you these strategies to use in your everyday life that are going to help you. What happens is oftentimes they get written down and you can't find the paper that you wrote it on, or they give you a sheet of paper that has a lot of strategies written down on it, and then you can't find that. So Strategize My Life is a place that you can go where you can actually write down the strategies. You can take pictures of things. You can incorporate video. You can organize the strategies. And ultimately, you can rate them so that you know what strategies really work for you and what strategies don't. Okay. A lot of times people give you a whole bunch of strategies and they may not work for you. And due to memory problems, sometimes after the brain injury, what ends up happening is you have these strategies and you keep using the same bad strategies for you over and over again. And so Strategize My Life is an app that can help you manage those strategies, find those strategies, and rate them so that you can find the strategies that you need. The students that I have at Coastline actually use Strategize My Life as sort of a little mini brain book for them, because they put information about strategies, they put information they learn in class, and they put all that into Strategize My Life so that they have one place that they can go to in order to find the information that they're looking through for. It's not in a bunch of different notebooks. It's not in binders. It's in one place. So that's what Best is. I started Best 8 years ago with a former student of mine. One of the things that was happening, her name is Christy Craigthorpe. She was getting ready to graduate from the ABI program at Coastline, and she really benefited from what we were doing at Coastline, and she really benefited from the technology, the use of the technology. And so she approached me when she was graduating from the program and wanted to know if we could work together in some way. And so we decided that we would start a nonprofit, and that ended up being Best. So Best is an interesting nonprofit in that most of the volunteers at Best are brain injury survivors. And I am the founder and CEO of Best. I do not take a salary from Best. So all the donations and all the things that we do go right back into offering services and developing the apps and all the different kinds of things. I'm happy to take questions if anyone has
I'd
questions to
like to,
answer.
what I'm wondering about is, has there been any attempt to take some, if not all, of what you're doing through Best and getting it, what's the word? Disseminated to through other universities and or hospital systems?
That's what we'd like to do. Absolutely, Randy. So,
Has there
right
been any
now,
attempt at doing that?
There has been, I don't know what you mean by an attempt at doing it. So I
Well,
go to
has anybody
conferences.
reached out to any of the hospital systems in this country or other
Yeah,
universities, for example?
yeah, we
And
have.
if so, what kind of reaction or response have you received?
Well, let me start with, we're a very small nonprofit. And
Yeah.
so we don't have a whole communications department that we can use to try and reach out to people. So, I'm constantly trying to be in contact with doctors and therapists and rehab facilities and all of that. In fact, I was just at a conference for state head injury administrators. Um, and those are all really good things. It is very hard to get into the system.
Yeah, believe me, I
In
know.
terms of, I'm sorry?
Believe me, I know.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
hard to get into the system. It's hard because we're a nonprofit. It's hard because I don't have my PhD or I'm not a medical doctor.
Right.
I'm coming at it from a different perspective than the medical model.
That's before you get to all the politics of it.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what Best is doing is we are offering these things to individuals living with brain injuries and all the other groups we talked about. We're offering this live during the webinars and during the workshops. And then we're also providing access to the recordings of those things. And we're providing access to that for a nominal fee because we're a nonprofit. We're trying to, continue to get out there.
Yeah.
What I would love to do is to be able to, um, you know, do what I do and offer what we do through a hospital or through a university or something like that. But those are, it's a very difficult thing to do. And also for me, just to be honest with you, one of the things that my background is very different and my experience is very different. And I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose the way I do things
Right.
by having other people take it over and try to do it. So that's just, kind of where.
What about any experience with the insurance industry, the health insurance industry
Mhm.
at all?
The health insurance industry, I've tried for many, many years to get the health insurance industry to even think about Coastline as a option, to help pay for the cognitive rehabilitation offered through a academic institution.
Yeah.
And I have not had any luck whatsoever.
Yeah, both of those are, to say, tough nuts to crack is putting it lightly. And I just want to say that, so first of all, thank you, Michelle, for sharing. This was really great. No, we don't need those specific examples. What you've shown is very clear. I don't know what I had viewed a webinar or the other context, the other material, but the details of what you were showing, for me, it's like the brain injury stuff falls into these cracks that are not even visible. And what you were showing in the two seminars I had viewed put those cracks like on the table. And for a brain injured person, it's very clear. That's why you have such clear those 100% approval or satisfaction rates, because these are the same issues that if you know about brain injury, then you know what we're dealing with. In fact, some of the stuff you were saying is reminding me of something I want to write in the future, which is the nature of a relearning curve versus
Mm,
a learning curve. Case in
yeah.
point, those things stay with you. It's misunderstood by the outside world. The plateau nature. Steve Carnes, he's another brain injury person who did this seminar series last week. Yeah, I need to run a script with what you say and what he says. There's a lot of similarities there.
Hmm.
So yeah, thanks. And I think for brain injury people, we know that this is missing. So yeah, I really appreciate what
Yeah.
you're doing, and I hope it continues to grow. I think it will
Thank you.
organically.
I hope so. Yeah, and it has. I mean, we've been doing this for a while and we get more and more people registering for the webinars and for the workshops, and I hope that some of you here will be willing to check us out and get a sense of what we're doing. In fact, this Saturday we're doing a webinar on goal setting. And so we'll talk about that, and then in October, the end of October and November and December, we're going to be doing a learning series. So these are all free. You can get access to them. Again, if you don't make it, you can get a recording of it for a period of time. And if you want to go back and look at some of the other recordings, you can always do that as well. I do see in the chat there's a couple questions, Dan. So if you don't mind, I'll try to answer those.
Oh,
Is that
please, please.
okay?
Yeah.
So Diana asked about the apps and asked about Q My List, and is that a best app? Yeah, Q My List is one of the apps that we've created. One of the things I want to mention is we are redesigning from the ground up all of the apps that we've done before. And the reason for that is because so much has changed in the app world and in the app industry and in app design and programming and all of that, that we are in the process right now of redesigning and recreating the apps in the best suite. So Strategize My Life is the one that we have just recently released as a standalone. It has a lot more features, and there's a lot more, a lot more potential, I think, in it. The other app that we're working on right now is Pace My Day. That should be out within the next couple of months. And that app is all about energy management and fatigue, neurofatigue. And so that's an important thing. And then the third app that we will be redesigning again, hopefully by the end of this year, is Q My List. So if you're interested in best and in the apps that we have, I would start with the newer apps because they're redesigned and they are, I think, more practical and have a lot more features in them. So the best suite is still out there, but once we do the redesign, then the best suite will kind of go away because it's written in an older programming language and has more limitations to it.
Holly, do you have a question?
I have tried to organize for the last 2.5 years using notes, using pictures, using screenshots, but then I don't remember where I put the notes or where the screenshots are or that I took the screenshot. So it's just this hodgepodge of information that I can't even organize if I tried, but at least at some places when I try to do searches, I can find some stuff here and there.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
rediscover stuff a year later that I didn't even know I did, or so it's just a whole brain injury thing. So any organizational tips like that will help. And that's one of my big dilemmas is the executive function and memory and what have you, of course. But yeah, thank you for this so much. Could you link Saturday's chat by chance into could you
I
put the
just put
link
the
for
link in
Saturday's
there
chat?
for you.
Oh,
Yeah, I
awesome.
saw your question. So I just put
Yeah,
the link
thank
in
you.
there for you. That'll take you to the webinars page so that you can learn a little bit about it, and then you can just register for it.
And then
mhm.
one quick thing. One of the issues I've been having with a lot of webinar company or not webinar companies, but all these different agencies that are it's not the right words, but I can't find the right word. All these different groups that do these different classes or webinars or Zoom meetings or what have you. 90% of them do not send out a reminder chat. And so it's really frustrating because I miss so many of them because, executive function. So do you know or if you can, if you don't, just day of kind of emails or text or reminder things would be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, the webinar system that we're using right now does that. It will send out several different
Beautiful.
reminders. Then we're going to have to move to a different system, and we're going to be
Sure.
using Zoom webinars. So you will get a reminder the day of, and I'm hoping that I can figure out a way to make sure that you get a reminder, at least one other time before, so that way you can be prepared for it.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll provide the handouts. I always like to open it up in advance, a few minutes in advance so that people can download the handouts. That makes a huge difference. If you can download the handouts and print the handouts just as a strategy and as a tip, if you get the handouts from a webinar or from a class or something like that, print them out and actually write on the handout. So this may be something that you just already know, but there's a lot of research out there that shows that students who oftentimes will get handouts from a teacher and then they'll write all the same information that they happen to have on the handouts on a sheet of paper because they're distracted, right? Their divided attention is not very good. And that's not a person with a brain injury. That's a regular college student. So one strategy for that is if you get handouts, print them out and then don't rewrite what's already on the handouts. As a person with a brain injury, you can get distracted very easily, slow processing, memory, all those skills are going to impact your ability to take notes. And so if you have handouts, don't waste the time rewriting what's already there, just add to it. That's part of the educational perspective that I'm kind of talking about. So I hope that's helpful, Holly.
There's two things real quick, and
Mhm.
it's my own issue, not anybody else's. I don't have a computer, I don't have a printer, I don't have any of that stuff. So for me, I'll have to do it another way, figure out
Yeah.
another way. But one of the things in speech therapy, I couldn't figure out why I had to do this rudimentary thing of writing down phone calls and writing down information, because I wasn't remembering later on what the words meant on the paper anyway. But I guess there's a connection between the brain and actually physically writing with your hand that is
Mhm.
improving your memory, and that's what they told me. And then I'm like, oh, that makes more sense now. So
Mhm.
so those things are cool and
Yeah.
important. Thank you.
Yeah. One of the things that we talk about in BEST in our upcoming webinar series is learning styles. And we'll talk about learning strategies as well, but learning styles is something very different. And the way I
Yeah.
approach it is not like you're a verbal learner or a visual learner or whatever. I look at it from a very different perspective. And so it may be something that you would be interested in. I think what happens after brain injury oftentimes is that a person's learning style changes. And what ends up happening is you keep trying to learn the way you always learned before, and that way doesn't necessarily work anymore. And as a result of that, there's a lot
Right.
of frustration and all that. So very good.
That's pretty
Olivia,
accurate. Yeah.
go ahead.
Olivia, you have a question?
Not a question, but a
Oh.
comment really. I just, so I've been following, BEST for about a year and a half. Dan, what you've been doing, probably about for about a year and a half, maybe a year. And Judy, what you guys have been doing, and I'm just so happy to see the three of you coming together, because it's for as somebody who because I didn't get cog rehab, because I mean I was just searching and searching and searching for answers all the time, and because I know that Coastline College does a really great job, but I'm not in California, so a lot of this has just been so helpful for me, and that's also why I'm all about spreading the word. So however I can, just let me know, and I'm happy to do whatever I can to help. So thank you.
Thanks,
That's all I have to
Olivia.
say.
Yeah, thanks, Olivia. On that note, I can say that I learned in my cognitive rehab, which took many months to find someone that could do, and then we had maybe 6 months with her. But I learned that I had to write things down to even get it into my head. And I explain it to people as it was before memory, because the memory, as soon as it's in your head, and it was such a weird experience. But when people said stuff, I could understand it. I just didn't remember it. So it was like this: you're riding the train of when they're saying it, I'm able to follow it, and then I sit to put it in my head and rewriting over and over and over, and it was became a procedure. And then over the years, that rewriting went down until it was like other people one or two times.
Mhm.
And that was just one of the examples of weird things that come with brain injury. I've talked to brain injury people about it, but not so much so yeah, so thanks, Michelle. So anyone else have any questions or any closing thoughts?
Diana, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I'm a speech language pathologist, and I graduated in 2019 and got into the profession, and I feel like this is really affirming to me because I've gone away, expanded beyond what I actually learned in school to follow my gut instinct to do some of these things and incorporate some of these things. And so I love having this as a resource and a place to use as a resource with people I'm working with, but also send people after we run into these limitations that everybody has talked about, the limitations on insurance and, hitting plateaus and what that means to insurance that we can't, that our hands are tied with, and insurances that I don't take or that we can't charge out of pocket for, and people don't have the means for, and all of that. So I just really, really appreciate this resource, finding you. Thank you, Dan. I've known Dan for that long too, and really appreciate your advocacy work and reaching out to me, knowing I'm a speech therapist, to join these groups and to learn about BEST. So I really appreciate you, Michelle. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And, it's wonderful. Dan, I'm going to give you back the
host.
post. Yeah. That's one of the interesting things about it is so often we're looking at it from one perspective. And I love, Diana, that you said, it's just sort of like your gut feeling was that there's more there, there's different approaches and all that. That's so important. And so I think that that's very cool that, that you have that instinct. Interestingly enough, not everybody has that instinct. And so I really appreciate that you see that. And I hope one thing that BEST is a place that people living with brain injury can come back to whenever they need it. And that's what ends up happening. People will come to our webinars for a little bit and then something will happen. It'll either be good or something, something bad will happen. And they'll come back 6 months later and they will, say, hey, I'm back. Sorry, I was gone for whatever reason. But, it could be 2 or 3 years. We know that brain injury kind of ebbs and flows, right? You have your good days, you have your bad days, you have your good months, you have your bad months, etc. And so with that ebb and flow, I want BEST to be a place that you can go, that you can rely on, that's going to be there, that's going to continue to support you. So thank you.
That's great. Yeah, I call it the evolution of brain injury because it keeps changing, and now I've
Yeah.
seen that word in the literature, so I don't remember what I called it before that, but yeah, it's absolutely it's like a moving target, and the supports don't last not nearly that long. Debbie, did you have a question or comment?
Michelle, you might have actually answered it because I was just curious. I've never had any kind of rehabilitation. I've had a lot of TBIs, my first one in 1995. So mine has been this progression through not being diagnosed and things getting worse. And sometimes I feel like I don't know exactly where to start. So would you just recommend just kind of hopping in and just trying one of the webinars and go from there?
Yeah, I absolutely would. I think one of the things that you have to know about the webinars is, let's say that you came this Saturday. We're going to be talking about goal setting. Well, I always do what I call an iterative review. So we're going to review some of what we've learned about executive functioning up until now. And then we add on the goal setting. We call that in education, we call that scaffolding. Okay. And so I
Former
have
teacher.
a scaffolding. What was that?
I'm a former teacher.
Oh,
Gotcha.
nice. Okay. So you understand. So we're going to scaffold and then we're going to sort of end it with goal setting, but I'm going to do the best I can to relate all the previous executive function stuff, plus how all these things interact and influence a person's ability to goal set. And then in the second part of October, we're going to move into the learning series. That's going to be a brand new series. And I think that would be another really good place where hopefully you'll be able to learn, some good information. And, it's sort of one of the things that we hear a lot is people just keep coming back because every time you come to a webinar, even if we offer the same one again, when you come, you're at a different place in your life, you're at a different place in your rehab, you're at a different place altogether. And so you see it differently. And every time people come back, they get something else out of it that they didn't get the first go. So I would definitely encourage you and would love to have you join us. And if you can, join us in the after hours afterwards.
Great, thank you.
Can I make a suggestion? And also, I just wanted to say, Michelle, I like the after hours aspect because for every brain injured person, you're dealing with a different set of issues. And then I see that after hours format as helping for them to figure that out. And Debbie, I would recommend to anyone just it's literally like try to make a list of what problems you have, and then if you look on Michelle's website, it's like, oh, that's one that's glaring at me. That's the one to go to because I've sat through stuff where I'm like, they're talking about memory issues I don't have, or someone else might have, and I know Randy who's here, he had the file unable to open. I never had that issue. I had different ones. And so if you find the ones that are glaring as per your core problems, as per your, to borrow Michelle's term, stick with you problems that keep with you the whole time. Because if we learn them over time, and then it's like, that's obvious to me, that would be a place to, if not start initially, to find that as because for each person, that's what needs, for each brain injured person, that's what's brain injured. That's what needs
Yeah.
that. So that's how
We're
I.
going to be offering some new webinars next year, but
Mhm.
we're going to stick with what we call the building blocks. The
Yeah.
building blocks are those fundamental things like self-efficacy, neurofatigue, self-regulation. Those things that really, if you don't have kind of a basic understanding of those things, all the other stuff that people teach you or, try to help you with often gets lost. And so we always start off our year with the building blocks. And then next year, we're going to have, based on feedback from participants, we're going to be offering some different kinds of webinars. So I'm excited about that as well.
That's great. Thank you, Michelle. That's good
All
advice.
right.
Oh,
Well, thank you, Dan, for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. It was good meeting people, and I hope that we'll see you in our webinar series.
all right. I think we can keep talking if anyone wants to hang out. And Michelle, you're free.
I will leave.
Your schedule.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Nice to meet
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Yeah.
you
Bye-bye.
again.
If anyone has any comments or anything.
Thank you.
Um,
Yeah,
This is
I'm
great.
tired. I'm tapped out. I gotta go.
Cool.
I'm like,
Thanks, Randy.
beat the
Um,
shit.
Hi, Randy.
Yeah,
This was pretty interesting actually.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
know
it was.
she does a great
Not what I was expecting, although I'm not really sure what I was expecting, but it wasn't this. And
the people who are filling in the cracks of what is needed for brain injury are making it up as they go. I am doing that and I see it in them. With the brain injury people, things are supportive or it's a discussion that at least is somewhat validating. With them, it becomes a fight or they just ignore you, and it's
the bottom line to all this is it's not that the need, I don't know, how do I put this? Everything about healthcare in this country comes down to one thing and one thing only: money.
Yeah.
That's it. And it has nothing to do with helping people unless there is money to be made. A good example of that is probably what's going on in Oregon right now with this thing called Measure 118. I find it absolutely astounding to me they're even putting this thing on the ballot to fund a universal health care plan. But, that's the fundamental problem. I think if you can somehow get this institutionalized, either through an insurance company, the legislature, a hospital system, that would be a real good start.
according to your perspective, then it has to be woven into that system. Holly, you had a comment or
I
something?
don't think it takes that much. It's just a matter of getting somebody like Michelle, in front of the right people. That's that would be my initial thought.
Well, but that doesn't exist. Michelle is trying to do that. The right people in that sense don't exist because they don't have a view on it.
Yeah, but you could say that's true almost about anything dealing with chronic conditions.
No, but for example, the talk I did last year, I searched far and wide, and I've been looking for years for someone to say anything that they knew about brain injury. And the best example is the National Academies of Science saying very clearly, we don't know anything and we misunderstand this. And then they gave a framework without the brain injury part. Like that's insane. And so it's like ding, 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 ding,
Yep.
ding. These are top experts. Since I got into neuroscience, I've been looking for views on this.
You remember what I told you the definition of an expert is, right?
What?
I know you're gonna say.
An expert is somebody who knows more and more about less and less until they know everything about nothing. It's true.
Yeah.
I try to catch some of these webinars, and there's, BIA, in USA, whatever that is, and different ones. And sometimes I think it just says, memory and ways to handle that, but then it ends up being a whole big thing on all these testing and statistics and nothing that I can apply. So I
Holly,
attended one of those today.
Holly, where are you? What state are you
I'm in Seattle.
You're in Seattle?
Yeah.
There is I think it's called Wild Orchard, but what I would suggest that you give at least give a shot to is finding a good Tai Chi studio.
Randy, she has bodily issues that you have not imagined.
I'm not there
with her
yet.
brain injury.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I literally,
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
ambulatory wheelchair. I can walk. I never know when
Oh.
it's going to hit. I just moved, didn't do any of the moving, didn't do any of the packing, none of it. And
Right,
I still managed to collapse twice within 2 weeks just from the cognitive part of the moving. And it took me, I've been here a month now. I'm just now, the last day or two, starting to get a little bit of energy back. But even last night, my aide tried to take me to the store without the wheelchair because she didn't want to, and not to even, just literally to go into the bank and make a deposit. And I couldn't physically walk from one part of the store to the other because I was already shutting down. I didn't go into a full shutdown, but so before the accident, I was literally running twin infants in strollers up hills at age 57 to 180 after the accident. So, and now state housing and can barely move or do anything. But I'm working on it. I met great people like Dan. I try to be positive. I try to solve this mystery. Eating a meal will send me into sleep. So my system is so whacked out with
yeah,
all
I
of,
wish I had
since the
that problem.
brain injury.
Finding a way to
Yeah.
tap into working on it and then regulating it and then learning to not push
Yeah.
it. Because that's the
Yeah,
root-
Dan, when as I'm listening to Holly talk, I'm thinking about David Sukart.
Yeah, it's similar, but it's also different because he had
I mean, he had a stroke,
yeah, but he didn't have, he had an inability to move versus she's moving, she gets overwhelmed, it hits her like a ton, Holly, it hits her in a way.
I just shut down. I just start, I don't fall
David
to the
didn't have
ground,
that.
but everything gets super weak and my brain, my eyes shut, everything just shuts down. It's like,
Yeah.
it's all the gas is used up and I can't move. And then I rest for a half hour to 2 hours and I get it back, but it takes a couple days to recover.
like all the energy just been sucked out of every cell of
Oh,
her
completely.
body.
Like to the point, yeah, I can't
Yeah.
find words. I start
Yeah,
inability to speak,
yeah.
inability to walk, balance. It just starts crashing down. My son reminds me when I get sad about it that it used to happen every single day. And now it's, it didn't happen for about 4 months and then twice in a week when I moved. So I'm stronger to a degree.
Yeah,
I'm going the right direction, just not as fast as I'd like.
But I don't think there's anything fast about about any rehab to do. I don't think there's anything fast about rehab.
Nothing.
Period.
It's brain injury. The biggest healer so far has been time.
Thank you, guys. This is terrific. I did want to just comment on what like it does sound like I have a brain injury myself, and I have a young daughter, one as well. And it sounds, again, I'm not a doctor, but it does sound like it's dysautonomia, an autonomic nervous system part of the issue. I have that same thing, and in the beginning, I've calculated down, and I was not able to get, like I want to say, quote, the right treatment for like 5 years.
I imagine you can find anything, yeah.
Yeah. The brain injury.
finances.
Yeah. The brain injury gave me dysautonomia and I
Yes.
failed the tilt test. I lost in 5 minutes 47% of cerebral blood flow.
Oh, my
So
God.
basically half the blood flow in my brain I lost in 5 minutes of the
Yes.
tilt test. So there's different categories with under the dysautonomia umbrella.
Yeah, my daughter both have that. She has the POTS version, and I have the orthostatic hypotension dysautonomia.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wondered if you or any of you have tried like functional neurology.
Yes, I did. For me, because it actually, I landed in the hospital for 6 weeks,
Oh,
going through the process
gosh.
of the functional neurology plan. So I think it was too much too soon for my brain. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to be really careful. But
Yeah,
that's me personally. Other
doing
people,
it.
it might have been fine. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just really appreciate all our
Yeah.
I gotta go. I'm tapped out. I gotta go. I gotta go later.
Bye, Rand.
See you,
All right.
Randy.
Nice to meet
Take
you.
care. It's good seeing all of you.
So Rachel, were you able to find a good functional neurologist? Because I think they're definitely
Yes.
created
They're
equal.
very few and far between. I'm in the Chicago suburbs, so
Okay.
yes,
You
my
are?
function. Yeah.
Ah, I grew up southwest side of Chicago. Sorry, I'm in
Oh,
the Kankakee
Debbie.
area now.
Oh yeah, no, I know Kankakee.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Really sorry.
there's a good functional neurologist and he has offices in, one office in Chicago and one office in Spring Grove, Illinois, which is closer to Wisconsin. But it's in Illinois. He's one good one around here. And I know of a few throughout the United States because there's so many people with brain injuries all over the states that I kind of have talked to, and the lists, there are a few.
Well, long COVID is actually forcing the functional neurology or dysautonomia recognition, because not just brain injury, but long COVID has now created this whole, for lack of better words, mass of people that now need support. So they're going to have to start directing attention and energy towards learning more about dysautonomia.
I think that COVID has offered glimpses of what brain injury is like to unbrain injured people, for weeks.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's good. And when I got it, I lost scent, taste, and smell, and other capacities that were not the things I lost in my brain injury. But I was like, oh, this is like
Yeah.
this is like brain injury. And
Also, I feel like because of my sensory impact that I can't speak for people on autism spectrum, but I sometimes wonder if this is what they experience, because it heightened everything as far as sound and sight and vision processing. And I wonder if this is the sensory overload they go through. So it's helped me. I don't know what the right word is. I can't speak for them. I don't want to, because I don't have that and I don't want to speak for them, but I feel like I have a greater sense of the people that are sensory, more what that's like.
I'll raise my hand about that. The neurodiverse populations out there, I've observed them enough. I don't feel like it represents brain injury well enough, although there are similar symptoms, although there are similar neurodiverse aspects. Brain injury is still unique to autism.
Oh, I think it's
spectrum.
completely different, but I think there is some overlap in the
there's definitely overlap, and that's
sensory.
actually dangerous, because then people think that we have what they have, which also the improvement and the trajectory of a relearning curve with brain injury is different than what's out there completely. So this discussion goes on, and I decided to end the recording here because people get into a lot of personal stuff, but it's at this point I think it's a really good example, or many examples, of the various kinds of brain injury problems people have to deal with and how they're left to fend for themselves. That's why BEST is so cool, because it offers real support and structure for its thinking and cognition, but it's a lot more than that as well. So also, if you like the brain injury discussion that occurs throughout this recording, I just want to encourage people to listen to the other BBA seminars, because they have discussion like this, similar topics, sometimes very different, but all capturing the nature of brain injury stuff. And I also have a podcast called Experiencing My Brain, where I sit one-on-one with brain injured people and really talk about the nature of what they are aware of their own invisible problems. So thanks.